Well, recently I had an Ask Denis episode and I talked about it. It's actually on episode 416, Leadership Strategies for the Last Month of the Quarter. So I wonder how you're going, how are things going for you, how you're progressing. And you've more or less got 3 weeks left to go in this quarter. And so what are you doing? Are you using those strategies? And how are you actually finding them? And what are you learning from utilizing them? But you know what? We're living in a fast-paced, ever-changing business landscape, world, and executive leaders face a constant challenge of navigating change and ambiguity or uncertainty. Whether it's dealing with things like market fluctuations, disruptive technologies, in other words, a new system coming in place or a new tool, something that will disrupt the technology space and our lives, headwinds, or unexpected crises, leaders must have the skills and the strategies to be able to adapt and steer their organizations through turbulent times. And the reason I'm talking about this today is an extension from episode 416, which was around leadership strategies from the last month of the quarter. So here are some other strategies as well. So I'm going to cover off strategies for executive leaders to navigate change and uncertainty. Let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas.
Hey listeners, welcome to the Ask Denis episode. This is a freestyle episode where I'm asked a question by our listeners or I share my thoughts, experiences and insights from working with many leaders around the globe. All right, listeners, we want to keep promoting the podcast and thank you to all of those who are actually putting the reviews and the ratings and following the podcast, whether it's on Apple, Spotify or any other platform that's out there today. We are on most of them. If you are listening to this podcast and you are listening to it on another app in India, just know we're on the two largest apps in India as well, and check those out too. I really appreciate it if you can ask others to put reviews and ratings on the actual show or the podcast itself, but also share it with your network, your family and your friends, because the more people we get listening to this show, the better off leaders we will have around the world. All right, let's get into today's topic of the strategies for executive leaders to navigate change and uncertainty. I'm going to share with you 7 strategies, and then I'm going to dive deep into each one of them as well. So I'm just going to quickly share what those 7 are, and then you can understand that. So these are the strategies that executive leaders can use to navigate change and uncertainty. Number 1 is embrace a growth mindset. Number 2 is foster a culture of resilience. Number 3, develop a strong communication strategy. Number 4, prioritization around innovation or experimentation, in other words, doing experiments around things. Number 5, build a strong network. Number 6, maintain focus on long-term goals. And number 7, seek outside expertise. And I know that for some of you, you're probably thinking right now, whoa, what are these 7? I want to know more. So here we go. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into each one of them. Number 1 is embrace a growth mindset. A growth mindset is a belief that challenges and setbacks are opportunities for growth and development, rather than being obstacles that you want to try and avoid. The mindset helps executive leaders and their teams approach change and uncertainty with a positive attitude and the ability to see opportunities in the midst of challenges. By adopting a growth mindset, leaders can then encourage their teams to take risks, try new things, and then, more importantly, learn from their experiences. So that's number 1. Let's go on to number 2. Number 2 is foster a culture of resilience. And what we mean by that is that if you can build a culture of resilience, it means creating an environment in which employees are going to be more adaptable, resourceful, and are going to be able to handle unexpected challenges. Now, this might involve providing training and development opportunities for them. They really focus on building their skills like problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, and being adaptable. Leaders can also encourage collaboration and teamwork, as well as empower employees to take ownership of their work and be more independent. So imagine if you can foster a culture of resilience. Number 3 is develop a strong communication strategy. Now, communication is really quite crucial during the times of change and uncertainty. And executive leaders should be transparent and open with their teams. They should provide regular updates and sharing information about the company's direction and goals. This really helps build trust and confidence among the employees and ensures that everyone is on the same page. Nothing more important than everybody being on the same page. Leaders can also encourage two-way communication by creating opportunities for the employees to share their feedback and ideas. And make sure it is two-way, that it's not just only one way, because that doesn't help. So make sure you do have the two-way kind of communication. Number 4 is where you can prioritize innovation and experimentation, research and development, things like that. In times of change and uncertainty, innovation is essential for staying ahead of the curve. Can you imagine how many people had to be more innovative when we were going through the pandemic? People's businesses changed dramatically, and they had to be more innovative on how they were going to do things. So executive leaders should prioritize experimentation and encourage their teams to try new things, even though they may not work out. This kind of attitude really helps to foster a culture of innovation, where employees are encouraged to take risks and explore new ideas. You just don't know what might be the next biggest thing that comes out from your employees if you actually have that kind of culture of innovation and experimentation. Number 5 is build a strong network. Networking, for a lot of people, they go, I don't like networking, I don't want to do networking. Well, why? And a lot of them go, I don't want to sell anything to anybody. I'm nervous. Well, I think everyone's nervous, to be honest. So networking is an important part of navigating change and uncertainty. You see, the executive leaders that can build strong relationships with their peers, their mentors, and other industry leaders, that can really provide valuable insights and support during difficult times. You see, leaders can also encourage their teams to build their own networks as well, getting them to attend some industry events, some conferences, joining professional organizations, and connecting with other professionals in their field. Last week, I was in Sydney, Australia for a conference, 4 days. Day 1 and day 4 were for a smaller inner circle of people, and then day 2 and day 3 was everybody. But the amount of people I met was fantastic. Some, I want to carry on building relationships. Others, nice to meet you, and I wish them all the very best, but maybe one day I might be able to help them, or vice versa, but really, I'm leaving it there. You're not going to be able to build relationships with everybody. You're not going to be able to relate to everybody as well. But the important thing is that you're actually out there connecting with other professionals in your field and in your industry and outside of that industry. Number 6 is maintain focus on long-term goals. While it's important to be adaptable and flexible during times of change and uncertainty, executive leaders must also maintain a focus on the long-term goals. This means keeping an eye on the big picture, making strategic decisions that align with the company's overall vision and mission and where they're going. By staying focused on long-term goals, this is where leaders can help ensure that their organizations are moving in the right direction, even during challenging times. So I talked about headwinds. You get things thrown at you, different crises. What can you do? The big thing here is going back to the bigger picture, you're understanding your why, your vision, where you're going, and keep to that and move forward. Number 7, and this is the final one, is seek outside expertise. Now, executive leaders should not be afraid to seek outside expertise and advice when going through and navigating through change and uncertainty. It's okay to ask for help. Now, this might involve getting some consultants or advisors, or seeking input from people who are experts in an industry or who might be thought leaders. Now, by getting the outside expertise in, leaders can then really gain some fresh thoughts or perspectives, insights, and maybe even access some new ideas and strategies for navigating change. And if you're one of those kind of people who are thinking about you need outside help, just understand that I can help you by coming in and being some of that outside expertise as well, through executive coaching, strategizing, doing some work with your teams around culture, helping them navigate the change and then lead forward, which is really important. So listeners, there you go. There are 7 key strategies that executive leaders can use to navigate change and uncertainty. Just to recap, number 1 was embrace a growth mindset. Number 2 is foster a culture of resilience. Number 3, develop a strong communication strategy. Number 4, prioritization of innovation and experimentation. In other words, that research and development space. Number 5, build a strong network. Number 6, maintain focus on your long-term goals. And number 7, seek outside expertise. Hey, well, thank you for listening to this episode, and we hope that you find these strategies really helpful for you. I've got a couple calls to action for you this week. And number 1 is I want you to think about the 7 strategies I've just shared with you around navigating change and uncertainty. Which ones did you resonate with? Which ones are your strengths and which ones lack a little bit? In other words, what do you need to do to focus on not just your strengths, but some of the areas you might need to develop as well? And so think about that and think about and put a plan together to help you do that. Number 2 call to action is an offer. And so if you're that high-level executive or senior leader who is facing change and so forth and uncertainty, whether it's around your role, whether it's around your business that you own or lead, just know that I can actually help you, and I have some actionable coaching that's actually going to help you do that. For some of you right now, you might be thinking about, or you have been made redundant. You're not thinking about that, but you've been made redundant. The thing you're thinking about is, can I get another role? Am I good enough? Will I add value? And then your confidence gets knocked and you start to self-doubt yourself. If you want some clarity around what your next steps are, so then you can step forward with purpose and confidence and go out and get the next big role, or go out and start your own business, then what I'm going to ask you to do is reach out to me. Send me a message on social media privately, or send me an email, Denis@leadingchangepartners.com, and let's get on a strategy call. I won't charge you for that strategy call at all. We just get on one free 45 minutes and we can talk about where you're wanting to go, what you're wanting to do, whether it's around navigating that change and uncertainty, whether it's actually helping your team move forward and leading them and making that happen, whether it is something you want to go into a bigger role and you're not sure how to get there, but get some clarity around that. And if there's some gaps in your skills, what do we need to do to close those gaps? And if you're someone who wants to start a business and become that entrepreneur trailblazer, then give me a call, because I can actually help you make the leap. Hey, listeners, well, that's it for this episode. It's always a pleasure being with you. Thanks for joining me on the Leadership is Changing podcast. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.